Hi, this is Majinoni, and welcome to another edition of The Good, The Bad, and The Disappointing. First up is The Good, and this is Amazing Spider-Man #1. Now, keep in mind, even though I'm listing this as my good of the week, it's not necessarily the best comic. I'm looking at it as this is the comic I look forward to the most. This was the most enjoyment I had while reading the book because this gave me Peter Parker again. Granted, I really love Superior Spider-Man. I loved how Slott handled Otto and how Otto changed how Spider-Man did things, and he really made a huge difference in terms of the two personalities. So to see Peter back again, it was like seeing your longtime friend that you haven't seen in years, and he's the same way that he used to be like. And there's even a part where things are not going well for Peter on one of his first trips back out, and he's fighting a bunch of these really useless supervillains. There's a panda, there's a hippo, and then there's the rabbit, and I think there was somebody else in here. Oh yeah, the moth, Killer Moth or whatever her name was, Gypsy Moth. And Gypsy Moth uses her abilities, and it basically she removes all of Peter Parker or Spider-Man's costume, and there's like that. And Spider-Woman and Captain America are monitoring the situation, and they're like, "Well, it looks like things are back to normal again." And Cap's like, "How do you know?" And Spider-Woman's like, "Well, that's because only Peter Parker can do this. This can only happen to Peter." And Cap is kind of like, "Well, yeah, I can see that, but he needs more verification." But see, this is what I'm saying. It's exactly this is the type of Spider-Man that we know and love. And I think, if anything, we can appreciate Peter now. Of course, we're going to get people going, "Well, I really like Superior Spider-Man much better, and Slott can just go to hell because, Superior was superior." So I probably expect some of that. I also like how Peter is going back into his new world, and so far, everything seems to be going okay. It's like, for example, he's working through his new company, he's figuring things out, what exactly Otto was doing. He learned that he's now a doctor, and then at the very end, a shocking thing happens. And that to me was a really interesting moment. I don't want to spoil it, but I will say it has to do with Otto's girlfriend. And he dropped a bomb in the sense of a plot point. So I'm really, if anything, it made me really want to read more. Now, my main complaint, I guess you can say, for this is I didn't get enough Peter. Because the bulk of this book is side story stuff. For an example, once we get done with the Peter stuff, then we get Electro. Why Electro's all pissy. Then we get a part where we get Spider-Man 2099. So this is getting people prepared for the Spider-Man 29 miniseries that's coming out. Or not miniseries, but the series. Then we get the Spider-Man Admirer storyline, which obviously is another plot point. Then we get the thing about the Black Cat. Now, the Black Cat storyline is actually really important because it reminds people what Spider-Man did to the Black Cat. She thought everything was cool, and then suddenly Spider-Man punches her out and then webs her up to the wall, and which allows the cops to capture her. Once she's captured, then they take everything away from her. So she's royally pissed, and she's looking for some payback. So, if anything, this part is very important to the upcoming storyline. So, I really enjoyed to see what's going on here. So, while most of this stuff was interesting, or at least relevant to what's going to happen later, it's still, it's been so long without Peter as the main character. I wanted him back longer. And we also get Inhuman issue #1 in the back for those of us who didn't read it because of the nonsense that's been going on with that. Okay, anyways, that was my good. Let's talk about the bad, and that is Batman and Kane. The aftermath. Okay, first of all, we have the scheduling problem where it's evident that the editors and the writers of everybody involved in Forever Evil wasted too much time building a story with useless stuff, and now they have to add additional pages to finish out their story because they didn't plot their story out well enough in advance, and they realize that, oh shit, we got too much plot to tie up and not enough pages, so it's late by a couple months, so they can't delay these books, so we get Forever Evil Aftermath, Batman versus Bane, and this is one of the most uninspired books I've ever seen in my life. Now, here's the thing. The Arkham War was, for all of its faults, was interesting, and I acknowledge that they took some chances along the way, and they built up a good story at the beginning, but I think once they started baning everybody up, that's when I kind of got, oh, really? But at least they tried something. But when we get to the Batman-Bane battle, it's by the numbers. It's stupid, boring dialogue. Batman comes and he's like, "Boo, I've come for you," type thing. And, Bane's like, "You should thank me for taking over your city. The city is mine." And Batman's like, "It's not yours. I'm taking it back. I'm hell. Roar." And then it's like a few pages and the battle's done. And I'm like, really? I mean, you have all this build-up of yap, 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 yap. And then you get just a few pages of the fight. And this is the part that we really, really want to see the most. And Batman just takes Bane down like he's nothing. And it's just like it's just uninspiring, I guess you can say. I don't think this is one of those books that you don't even need this as an aftermath. They didn't even have to explain what happens. It could have been done in one panel. Batman beats Bane and takes Gotham back. That's all you needed. We didn't need to waste $2.99, since they drew that line on $2.99. Oh, sorry, $3.99. They should have drawn the line on writing crappy, uninspiring books. Maybe that might have helped things a little better. Or maybe they should have drawn the line at following editorial deadlines and getting books out on time. Instead of this nonsense. This is just uninspired. It's bad, and it really has. And this is my biggest so far my theme so far this year. It just doesn't have a soul, and it's, for me at least, maybe for a new comic reader, they don't matter because they're just wrapped up into this whole Batman Bane. Oh my God, look at this fight. But to a person who's been reading comics for years, a person who has seen Batman and Bane fight a few times, this fight was freaking horrible. It's ridiculous. Charging me $3.99 for this rubbish. Alright, disappointing is Batman Eternal. If you notice a theme here. Now, this is my disclaimer. The story itself isn't necessarily disappointing. The problem is this. You are on a weekly series. And because you're on a weekly series, you obviously can't have artists working on the same strong artists working on every single issue. So now you're getting art fluctuation. And guess what happens here? We get art fluctuation. Now, here's the deal. I'm not saying that this art necessarily is horrible. But, for me at least, I really like the beginning parts of the Batman Eternal artwork. And when you suddenly switch it to this is distracting to me. Because I start noticing things. And then when I'm starting noticing things, I'm not happy. I'm like, why doesn't this look as good as it used to look? Maybe, and also I get this notion in my head of a thing called bait and switch, where, they show you this shiny new thing, and you're like, wow, that looks like freaking amazing. And like, picture a video game, that you see the trailer, and all the video game websites are like, oh, this game is freaking awesome, roar! And then you go out and buy the game, and it's like buggy, it's like graphics are glitchy, ink bugs everywhere where you can't even finish the game, just problem. And that's what I feel about Batman Eternal, is they showed us the shiny new product We got that shiny trailer. Then we get to what, we're starting. Now, don't get me wrong, this is in no way, shape, or form the meat of the story, but we get crappy artwork, and it's only the 4th issue. So then it makes me wonder, what am I in for the rest of the year? Now, this issue here is basically Batgirl's reaction to what's going on. And, she reacts the way she's supposed to, so I have no complaints on her. The Stephanie storyline was interesting. They threw a nice little twist to it, which I really did enjoy that. I'll give them that. Of course, they were saying, well, and then it makes you wonder, okay, Commissioner Gordon is going to jail, and they throw him in Blackgate, where everybody else was, where he threw in jail and stuff, Blackgate and Gotham. And I'm like, isn't that a problem? I mean, okay, now granted, from an initial time, when you look at the situation, it looks like he's really screwed up. But don't you think that Commissioner Gordon, for all the years of service and what he's done before that point, would have deserved something a little better than being thrown in a cell like a common criminal? And maybe they would have isolated him more, which, don't get me wrong, I understand why they did this, and this fits the story perfectly. But in my head, I'm thinking that. And then I'm thinking, you have the gang war that's starting, and then you have the interim commissioner screaming, we got to stop Batman because he's the problem. And I'm like, nobody's picking up there's a problem here. And that's where I'm getting issues with. Now, it is possible maybe there's some people in the police force that are going to come out later, and we're going to find out that they're going to say there's probably something wrong. But they're not doing it yet. And that's where I'm getting kind of anxious here. I'm going, you got to do something, because I'm going to quit this book. There's no way I'm going to buy this thing weekly and be told a story that force-fed a story that you're trying to tell, leaving these craziness things open. Because that's what's going on here. There's some craziness. Anyways, that's my good. That's my bad. That's my disappointing. I don't think you can. In all honesty, I really don't think anybody can really say Batman Eternal is a top 10 book. Not this week, at least. Anyways, like and share. Facebook Crunchyroll. I'll have more reviews later. Make some comments below. Let me know what your good, your bad, and your disappointing is, and I'll have more reviews later. So until